Welcome into the Baseball Insiders, where Robert Murray is eating as we start the show. Apparently, a dry pancake. So you just keep chewing on there, Bert. Just couldn't. Just a fresh pancake. Couldn't even. It wasn't like the last bite. Just started in. Are you all right? Did you just work out?
I did just work out. I got back probably about an hour ago, and I made 6 protein pancakes. So we're trying to add some weight here.
Well,
so far so good, Carm.
Is this because you're going to Orlando with Fansided? You want to look good for all the Orlandoites?
Of course, yeah. You got to look good for a different area. I look good in Scottsdale, but Orlando's a different ballgame. So
it's up a level. Welcome in. Hit that subscribe button. The Baseball Insiders with a special edition right now, as we were supposed to go tomorrow, but as I talked about on our football podcast today, got a little procedure tomorrow, Bert. We're going in for the colonoscopy. I know you needed to know that, so we had to bump up today's episode. I appreciate you making time, buddy.
Absolutely. Yeah, you texted me this morning like, hey, can we move the podcast up because I have a colonoscopy? And that was, of all the ways I imagined starting my day, that was not it. But I hope all goes well tomorrow, Carm.
I appreciate it. I just thought that just would put us on a whole nother level of friendship when a guy's going in for a procedure like that. We're officially, we're really buds now. That's how I see it.
We're more than buds. We're bros at this point.
We're not Joc Pederson and Tommy Pham. The slap heard round the world. I cannot remember anything in baseball history that remotely resembles this. Thank you, Jacob. It's a totally different world that we're living in, where Joc Pederson, wearing a hat half on his head, is holding up his phone and shows a GIF that he sent to a group of weightlifting, mocking the Padres for having a slow start to the season, along with these guys all mostly knowing each other and being in a fantasy football league. And I'm going to slap you before a game, and just to let you know that this is not good stuff here. This is unbelievable, Bert. Really exciting stuff.
Yeah, of all the fireworks I expected in baseball over Memorial Day weekend, that was definitely not what I expected at all. You see the video, or you hear about Tommy Pham slapping Joc Pederson, and you think it's like an innocent little slap, but he absolutely smoked him, Carm. And it was not a cheapie. He got his money's worth, and I can see why. Knowing the general amount of what each player put in for that league, I can understand why he'd be upset. But for an IR designation, and then also that innocent little GIF, it was just completely bizarre. And for me, that was the most bizarre baseball incident that we've had since Chris Sale cut up his jersey because he didn't want to wear it with a knife.
That was a very, very odd moment in Chicago White Sox time. I do want to remind everybody and remind Tommy Pham with the whole weightlifting thing. The Padres are 30-18. They're 3 back of the Dodgers. They're ahead of the Giants. Sensitive much? Am I missing something?
It was last year when they were underperforming. That's when he sent the GIF.
Okay.
So Pham held on to those sour grapes for, let's say, 6 to 8 months, which, for something so small, that seems rather petty.
Right, I get it, but shouldn't you be in a good mood? Things are, that's in the rearview mirror. You've been holding. That's a. What do you think? So every night the head hits the pillow, and you're still thinking about Joc Pederson, or just waiting for this moment in time. I'm going to hit this dude in batting practice.
Bizarre.
Wow.
I cannot say I've ever seen anything like it, Carm, and I'm sure that's going to be because I mentioned Tommy Pham as a possible trade candidate at the deadline on Fansided, but this kind of incident combined with some of the stuff that he's also had happen off the field, I think teams are going to have real reservations about making a deal for him, and it wouldn't shock me if he ended up staying put because of it.
Well, and Joc has bounced around now quite a bit too, from the Dodgers to the Cubs to winning a World Series with the Braves to now the Giants. Do you have any idea what his standing is in the Giants clubhouse right now?
I don't see it being impacted at all. if anything, it's gotten stronger because he ended up having that 3-homer performance in what was one of the best games of the year for him or for any player by that means. But yeah, it's Pederson's got very good standing. He was loved in the Dodgers clubhouse, loved in the Atlanta Braves clubhouse. And I'm sure it's the same way in San Francisco. But for a guy like Tommy Pham, it's just the latest strike in his career.
And just to be clear, like, look, Tommy Pham doesn't care about winning right now. Like, I just don't like. You're just. I mean, maybe he does, but like, you're hanging out on a bad baseball team. Like, the whole Padres thing should be in the rear of your mirror. You should be chilling along and going.
Yeah, you'd think, and it's crazy to me too, because this entire thing has felt like a reality TV show. It's just like each time it's gotten more and more just bizarre. Like, I mean, the first incident, the slap, was just crazy. And then you have Pederson reading off his text messages, Pham calling himself a high roller in Vegas. And it was like, what in the world is going on here? I think it's over. I say think. I mean, you never know in something like this, but I think we're at the end of it now.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate the entertainment. Baseball needs a little. I mean, we need a little shot in the arm. I was watching 60 Minutes the other night, Bert, and you know why I'm bringing up 60 Minutes right now?
I don't. What
you,
do you got?
you know that they did a feature on a baseball team. I didn't tell you about this before the show, so you're allowed to not know what I'm talking about here.
No, so I got no idea.
Have you heard of the Savannah Bananas?
Of course. Somebody mentioned them to me the other day, just out of the blue, and it was bizarre. So yeah, I'm very curious where this is going.
Well, the point is that the Savannah Bananas are this basically Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey baseball team that puts on a show, but plays a game similar to the Harlem Globetrotters, really, who played the Washington Generals. It wasn't real, quote, real baseball, but they're there to entertain you. And like, if there's a foul ball in the game, if a fan catches it in the stands, which are sold out, and if you go on StubHub in the secondary market, tickets are like $125 to see the Savannah Bananas. Or if you want to go see half the teams in baseball, it's $6 to get into a game on StubHub because there's ample seats available. I don't know, man. The Bananas are entertaining people and getting people to go to the ballpark, and it's not even, quote, real baseball, but people want to see it. I think it's an interesting thing for baseball to look at as to what is drawing fans to the ballpark at premium prices.
No, I hear you. And also, I mean, how can it not be entertaining when you're called the Savannah Bananas? I mean, plus I'm a huge banana guy, so I'm biased, but
yeah, right. You know, you're a big banana dude.
Actually, I should put that in my Twitter bio. That seems like a pretty good thing to have. What do you think?
Maybe we can put that in there. Maybe we can drive from Orlando to go see the Savannah Bananas. We'll extend the trip here, Bert, because we're just gonna be having so much fun in the sun, getting some sunshine.
Please, that actually sounds very good to me. So let's make it happen, Carm. I'm old enough to rent a car now, so I got that going for me.
There we go. All right. Any questions for Robert? Feel free to jump on in the chat here. Bert is always ready to spew knowledge. You want to start with the Padres here and what our doctor wants to know about Trent Grisham?
Yeah, so I'm glad he mentioned the Padres because I have the answer to a question that was asked last week by, I believe it was Will Holder. But the question about Trent Grisham being the long-term answer in center field is a valid one, which is like when they acquired Grisham, they envisioned him being the center fielder long-term, especially since they parted with Luis Urias, who's somebody that they were very high on. And Grisham, after his first year, has really struggled. And I think they would absolutely explore trying to have an upgrade over Grisham in center field. Whether they're going to be successful in that, I don't know. But I do know that they ended up pursuing different outfielders even over the offseason. I don't know if it was specifically center fielders, but I know they pursued outfielders. I've mentioned Chad Pinder before. Dom Smith with the Mets. We're going to get into him a little bit later. Were two of the guys they looked at. But the question that I was asked last week was whether the Padres would part with Blake Snell to upgrade their lineup. And I asked this to rival teams who have dealt with the Padres, and they said they would not rule it out. But that being said, it is extremely unlikely, and that it would take a very strong haul to convince them to do that. But with AJ Preller, you can't rule anything out. He's somebody who thinks outside the box more so than I think any GM in baseball, even more so than Jerry Dipoto. But I won't rule it out, but I would very, very, very strongly bet on Blake Snell being a Padre after the deadline.
Interesting. What are you hearing on Eric Hosmer, who signed an 8-year, $144 million contract with the Padres, and they tried hard to dump him, but ended up not doing it? I know there were a bunch of teams interested. I know the Cubs were interested in taking on Hosmer and getting an elite prospect back. He's having a pretty good season, so there's that. But is he still out there, or what are you hearing on Hos?
Yeah, I think the Padres would still listen on Hosmer, but they're in a tricky spot where he's a guy that is a leader in that clubhouse, and he's super respected, and he's played well, and that'd be a really tough guy to part with. And I'm going to bet on him staying. I'm less confident in that than I am with Blake Snell. But the Eric Hosmer part plays hand in hand with the Dom Smith situation. So I'll get into that now. Is Dom Smith was optioned today by the Mets. And if you remember, the Mets and the Padres had agreed to a deal before the season that would have sent Dom Smith to San Diego for Eric Hosmer, Emilio Pagan, and Chris Paddock. But at the last second, they ended up backing out of that deal because they failed Paddock's physical. The Mets did. So it was like, obviously the Paddock thing is not great, and you're not going to accept a deal when the guy is hurt like that. But you would add Eric Hosmer in a lineup that needs another big bat. And I mean, you would also gotten rid of Dom Smith, but who could have imagined that Smith would struggle like this, and then Nick Plummer would emerge as a really nice player for the Mets? Like, they've had a lot of guys like that, but I think that is a deal that the Mets might end up regretting not taking, even though the Paddock is hurt.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like the Padres got lucky, at least to this point. They could change, as this deal moves along, but they got, they did a lot to try to get rid of Eric Hosmer, and
and as they say, the best deals sometimes are the ones you don't make.
A lot of luck in this world, Bert. There's no doubt about it. And I just to put it out there, I've always liked Hosmer. That dude is a flat out winner. And okay, we can move on from there.
Although I will say this, like, going off of what you said before, so about Hosmer and like the Cubs being interested, this is not confirmed. I want to stress that when I say this, but something that I heard from a couple people at the time of the trade being done, or being just going from done to dead with the Mets, is that the Mets would have gotten Hosmer, and then they were also talking about a side deal with the Cubs. So it may have been Mets acquire Hosmer and then flip him. So as I said, not confirmed, but like, that's something I had heard.
I will also, on the non-confirmed side, what I heard is that the Cubs were willing to take on Hosmer, wanted one of the Padres' elite prospects. I don't know which one, and San Diego would not part with him. So
sounds right.
Yeah, and the other on the Cubs side of it is they did not spend all the money that they could have spent this year for deals like to be able to take on contracts like Eric Hosmer's in the quest of getting elite prospects, because you took on those salaries. So that might be something to look at as far as the Cubs are concerned at the deadline. We can stay in Chicago for a second here with the other Sox, who are sitting at 500, going to be without Tim Anderson for a little while here, although it's a grade 1 strain on his groin. So that was actually good news, but still on the 10-day DL. And Dallas Keuchel DFA'd. He's going to land somewhere, is he not, Bert? Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah, he'll land somewhere. I'm pretty confident in that. And once he's replaced, or actually he's already been placed on release waivers.
Yeah.
So any team that signs him is going to sign him for the veterans minimum. And then the White Sox are going to be responsible for the remainder of that contract. And two teams that I think make a lot of sense for Keuchel are the Mets, because if you look at their rotation right now, They're without Scherzer, they're without DeGrom, and they're also without McGill. And those are three of their best starters from this year. And we're looking at they're going to be off for quite a while, and they're going to need arms to fill in for those guys. And to their credit, they've gone 8-3 without Scherzer, and they've actually grown that lead in that division. So all credit to them. But I think if flyer on a guy like Keuchel would make sense, and you pair him with Jeremy Hefner, their pitching coach, you never know what can happen. And then the other one is the Cardinals. If you look at the Cardinals rotation, they have Flaherty on the IL, they have Steven Matz on the IL, and Matz is he's starting to throw, but it's still, they could use another starting pitcher because they're going to end up most likely moving Jordan Hicks back to the bullpen. And they had success last year when they acquired John Lester and J.A. Happ, which were two deals that were basically looked over by everybody, but they ended up pitching meaningful innings. Maybe a guy like Keuchel can step into that fifth spot in the rotation and have a similar impact. So those are two of the teams that I'm looking for there.
Interesting. I'll get to someone in the chat here in a second, but let me just pepper you, Bert, on the Phillies and their struggles, which are obviously significant. Kind of a weird. I mean, I liked their offseason at the time, but a lot of redundancy in, say, a Nick Castellanos and a Kyle Schwarber, those type of players, can't play D, whatnot. It hasn't worked out for the Phillies to this point. They're 21-28, 11.5 back of the Mets, and rumors of Joe Girardi's impending, perhaps say goodbye to Philly if they miss the playoffs. Do you think something happens with Girardi in season or after the season if they do indeed miss the playoffs?
Nothing is going to happen soon. I feel very confident in that. If it's to the point where they've been eliminated later in the regular season, maybe they end up exploring that. But I think the Phillies are going to be pretty patient with Girardi. I would not look at him being fired during the season as the most likely outcome. As Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic outlined, there's a lot of different reasons why the Phillies are not going well. And if you can look at one of those reasons, it's when they signed all these guys in the winter, they bet on offense, and their defense was in a spot where they had 3 or 4 DH candidates. And that was with Bryce Harper being healthy. And as soon as Bryce Harper got hurt, they had to slide him into DH. And that put a lot of those guys that are supposed to be in the DH spot into the field, and their defenses suffered because of it. Obviously, their bullpen has been atrocious. Their bullpen ERA seems to be going up like gas prices right now, which not great if you're following the gas price or a gas price market. But it's just they got a lot of things going wrong. It's going to be better, but let's say that they end up moving on from Girardi in season. You're not going to get an established guy right away. They do have some potential interim guys on their coaching staff, like Kevin Long, Dusty Wathan. Those are two of the guys. There's another one on their coaching staff who actually interviewed in New York when Girardi was fired. Can't remember his name off the top of my head. I think maybe Rob Thompson. That sounds right.
I'll go with you, Bert. Yeah.
All right, my guy. He always believes in me, folks. So I appreciate that.
I do.
But yeah, so they have some guys, but I would fully expect the Phillies to keep Girardi for most of the season, if not all of it.
Interesting. All right. I'm just trying to think top managers out there right now who might jump in. Anybody? Yes, you're smiling.
So there was one. I was listening to John Heyman and Joel Sherman's podcast earlier today because those guys are great. You can always learn something from them. And John said he talked to people connected with the Phillies that one possibility, or just speculative possibility, would be Jim Leland, who is very close with Dave Dombrowski. And those guys are best friends. Heyman said they almost talk every day. And he texted Leland about this possibility, just being like, what do you think of this? Is this something you'd entertain? And Leland responded with 3 words: no, thank you. So we can rule him out. But the fact that Leland was talked about, woof. I mean, that's another Tony La Russa situation, Carm.
They're both 77 years old. So, and Tony back in the news a little bit with his comments on Gabe Kapler, and there's the protesting gun control is not right around the anthem. So Tony doing the Tony playbook there. I do think just one thought on Gabe, and I mentioned this over on Stack in the Box. I'm just going to mention it here too. It's interesting to me that there's really no outside of so La Russa mentioned there's no real outrage here, and I'm just connecting the same. Here's the Giants manager, and then there was this 49ers quarterback who used the anthem to protest police brutality, and that was like, end of the world stuff that was happening. But Kapler, pretty much nothing. Minor reaction, and I find it interesting. I know we're in a different point in time, but baseball, kind of a more conservative sport, conservative fan base, if you will. And it's just interesting, young African-American guy versus, the white guy managing the Giants. I find the whole thing to be a little bit bizarre. Good for you, Gabe, by the way. Yep. Let's get some gun control going on here. Pro gun control right here. Let's make our children safer, please. I know this is not a political show, but
we've also had Farhan Zaidi, the Giants president, back up Kapler just now. So I'll read off the quote he just said to Andrew Bagley of The Athletic. Yeah. He said, "I'm just thankful that every day that I get to work with somebody who cares that much. I may not agree with everything he says or does on a personal level, but his passion, his thoughtfulness, and his conviction over the last few days, those are some of the traits that made him manager of the year last year." And I can tell you, Giants players love playing for Gabe Kapler. And as we're talking about Joe Girardi's job status, Carm.
No, we go back to the Phillies, they
let go of Gabe Kapler, who's manager of the year. So,
and did you know at the time that was a mistake?
I thought they let go of him too soon. I thought that was a pretty quick ousting, but also that was a very difficult situation for him to win in. So full disclosure, once he was let go, I did not think he would be a manager again. And Farhan Zaidi got the job in San Francisco and interviewed him. He was a finalist, and he ended up going with him, even though that was not the choice that many outside people would have done. And basically, Farhan Zaidi he basically staked his career in Gabe Kapler, and so far looks like an absolute genius for it, which that goes along with everything we've said on this podcast. It's basically a Farhan Zaidi fan podcast is what it is.
Yeah, you get him in here every week. Deservedly so, damn it. And
that's right.
I remember at the time, that's when the Cubs moved on from Madden, and they were like, we're going to interview Gabe Kapler. I'm like, Gabe Kapler? He got cracked in Philadelphia. Well, it just goes to show you that you got to have the horses, baby.
Tough market to win in Philadelphia, but I will say this. If you win in that market, they will love you forever, and you will never buy a beer again. So, it's the truth.
Yeah.
Just look at Nick Foles.
Charlie Manuel, you're good. All right. Here, let's get some thoughts in here. For Jacob Bradley, would David Peralta be an option in San Diego, perhaps as a platoon with Will Myers? What do you think of that thought from David?
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad option. I don't know if the Diamondbacks would trade Peralta in the division, but that being said, I can think of they weren't. It's not like a Paul Goldschmidt situation. Like Peralta's a good player, and so I don't think they would necessarily say no. They may have to get a little bit more in return. But that being said, I had somebody text me the other day about Peralta's his launch angle, and it's gone way up this year. And I wonder if there's going to be some team at the deadline that goes and gives that the old eyeball emoji and wonders if there's more possible for what he can do at the plate. So I could see him being an option in San Diego, maybe not the most likely one. But I guess I can see it.
Bunch of chats coming in here. We'll get to all of them here, but let me just jump around here. Yeah, let's get to Dan Sullins, who wants to know about Benintendi, perhaps to San Diego, so we can stick with the Padres. That would be super aggressive. What do you say on that? I don't know. Do you think that's a possibility, Bert?
So I'll combine that one with Will Holder's question about Kyle Lewis and maybe even Jesse Winker. So we're going to look at Benintendi, Lewis, and Winker. So this is one. So the Royals, they're going to sell, and Benintendi could end up being somebody that garners quite a bit of interest. I don't know if the Padres would be willing to part with what it takes to get him. I don't know, but the one that interests me that Will mentioned is Winker, because I'm pretty sure the Padres were involved on Winker before he was traded, and maybe they revisit that again. I know the Padres and the Mariners, they have made deals in the past. They even traded. They made it. Who was it? It was Adam Frazier. Basically, after that trade did not work out for them, after getting him from Pittsburgh, they shipped him off to the Mariners. And I wonder, with the Mariners struggling right now, if they could end up like doing the opposite thing where they deal Winker to the Padres. Wouldn't I have not heard about it, but like makes sense, especially since they have past interest in him too.
You making me think of when with Benintendi, it takes me to the Royals and how they. I mean, there's been everyone's wanted Whit Merrifield. Now, of course, he's having a down year. The Royals are 100% sellers. Do you think they move now? Which would be
if I was them, I would. Yeah, I mean they got some trade pieces. Benintendi, Zach Greinke. I don't think they're not going to trade Hunter Dozier. He's got 4 or 5 years left on his contract, but they have some tradable pieces in that team. And getting ahead of the trade market now, where you have some of these expiring contracts, you can get more for them in return than you would if you waited like 2 months. And I don't see any scenario in which the Royals come back and like get themselves into postseason contention. So if some of these teams call now, they should not hang up, and I would not think they would hang up.
Well, we're just for the record here, we're at May 31, and some teams would now, but it's rare, very rare. So, I mean, I actually think last year, I think the Cubs were the first to go. Atlanta wanted Pederson because they had who got hurt was Acuna got hurt, right?
They got Acuna, and then Alex Anthopoulos determined they needed a shot in the arm. They got Pederson, they got Jorge Soler, they got a couple other guys.
Won the damn World Series.
Yeah, but with Benintendi, if the Royals do get out ahead of this thing, I mean, you look at his numbers this year. He's hitting .329, and he's got an OPS of 826. And I mean, he won a Gold Glove last year. I mean, that's just like. I mean, there's going to be a lot of teams after that. And, I mean, as DC Hendricks said in the chat, basically anybody who's not named Salvador Perez and Bobby Witt Jr., you should listen on them in trade talks. I still wouldn't trade Hunter Dozier, but still, like, it should be open season on those guys.
When you're a bad baseball team, to me, you are open for business, period. What are you willing to pay? I'm not saying you throw them out the door, but somebody wants to make a huge offer for Salvi.
I wouldn't do that.
Okay. I mean,
that's another like Yadier Molina situation.
Yeah, okay. But you're trying to get back to remotely where you were at in 2014, 2015. I don't know. To me, everything would be on the table. Brian Roberts asking, what's a bigger need for the Mets? Relief pitching or a designated hitter? I'm assuming that's what he means, or right-handed pitching, one of the two. Can they address either before the deadline?
And I would fully expect them to do just that. And so they do. Like bullpen help is something that I absolutely see them targeting, just so they can have some more arms. But I think a really underrated need for them is another big bat in that lineup, and because they don't really have a home run hitter besides Pete Alonso. And if they end up adding another one of those guys to that lineup, and then you have Scherzer, DeGrom, McGill get healthy, then you pair that with another bullpen arm, I mean, you're looking at a really good team there, Carm. Like, I mean, they're already very good now, and it's to the point where, I mean, at that, like, they wouldn't have many weaknesses at all, and that'd be a very scary opponent, especially if you're a Dodgers team where they have their team is stacked, but they also have a bit of a hole in the rotation. And if you put DeGrom and Scherzer and the rest of that rotation against that lineup, and then you can score runs against their pitching staff, like you're looking at an upset. I mean, or a potential upset, I should say, in the postseason.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think so. To answer your question, I think they get at least one and perhaps both.
No lack of dough over there at Citi Field, that's for sure. And no lack of ego either to try to get things done as quickly as possible. Let's get DC Hendricks in here. Are the Mariners buyers or sellers? Season hasn't gone like they or we. Are you in the media, DC Hendricks? What do you do in the media? Let us know in the chat. We could find a spot for you at Fanside. We're always looking for young talent. As planned, of course, the Mariners sitting here right there with Oakland, 10 and a half back of the Astros, 20-28. I mean, not quite. The A's have lost 3 more games, but they're having a party down there in the basement.
They are. And right now, Carm, we're looking at them being sellers. And that is, I don't want to, it's not a shock because they have not put together back-to-back winning seasons in it's like almost like 20 years or so. And it's like they were bound for regression, but I never expected anything quite like this, especially after getting Jesse Winker and Eugenio Suarez. So if they look to sell, you have those 2 guys right there. They got, that would be a very interesting addition to the trade deadline, because if let's say the Red Sox don't sell, we're looking at a pretty bear market. And if you get the Mariners and Jerry DiPoto involved, then what could be a pretty bear market suddenly is going to get pretty interesting again. So as I said, right now they're looking like sellers.
And it is interesting, right? You have a lot of teams who I think you can pretty much state their path. I mean, right? Sellers. Let's go through it. I mean, to me, the Rockies, the D-backs, the Reds, the Cubs, the Pirates, the Marlins, the Nationals. I'd say the Phillies, even though it's a little bit complicated, I guess, if you're, I know if Joe Girardi wants to be selling, I'm sure he doesn't, but that to me is obvious. The A's, the Mariners, I suppose we'll let the Rangers hang around, but the Royals are defined. The Tigers are defined. I would think the Cleveland Guardians are defined. Orioles, and then the Red Sox have had a nice resurgence, which we, of course, predicted over here, damn it. I think we did at least. But there's a lot.
So I jinxed them. That may be the credits to their comeback here. But still, sorry, I just interrupted you.
I'm just saying that because there are so many, I think you could see things move earlier than normal is what is the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, and that certainly would make sense because, I mean, teams, like, they're not going to wait around. And if you can get more for return in these by going a month or a couple weeks earlier, then that makes total sense. So I think you're onto something there, Carm. That would not surprise me.
Yeah. Let's go to Dan at the top of the chat. What type of bat could you see the Padres targeting, considering the level of prospect they're comfortable moving? I don't know. This is going to stretch your knowledge of the Padres system here, Bert. What do you got for Dan?
Yeah, so a guy like Campusano, they're one of their top catching prospects, and he's had some red flags that I know other teams have been concerned by. So I think his market could be relatively let's go back a couple of years real quick. The Rangers loved Campusano, and the Padres said no, like, this is a non-starter. We're not parting with him. Now I don't know what exactly they could get in return for him, and it's been a fall from grace in that regard. But so as far as a target, this is also going to answer Robert Maluso. Might be pronouncing that wrong. I apologize, Robert. As a fellow Robert, but like Joey Gallo, could make sense as a trade target, especially if the Yankees end up parting with him, which it wouldn't surprise me if they ended up exploring a change of scenery to get him, or just to cut their losses there, just because he struggled so much. But yeah, I would look at a guy like Joey Gallo. I mentioned Chad Pinder on this podcast before. I'm trying to get more names, but I also can tell you this: Juan Soto, you can get that thought out of your head because the Padres or the Nationals are telling teams he's not going to be traded. That's unless something changes where it's just like they change their mindset. Soto's going to stay because I think any team or any owner that buys the Nationals is going to want to have Juan Soto on their team. And you know what? I'd want Juan Soto on my team too.
All right. You've been adamant on Juan Soto going nowhere, so
Yep.
I'm going to rub it in your
I'll
face.
tell you this, Carm.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go on the record right now. If Juan Soto is traded before the trade deadline,
Yeah.
I will eat a shoe on this podcast.
You'll eat a shoe?
I will eat a shoe. I will probably have to deep fry it so it can be like somewhat doable, but like I will eat a shoe.
Okay. Bert will eat a shoe if Juan Soto. I've heard little inklings of the Dodgers in Juan Soto.
Have you, Carm?
I mean, not in anything that I would be reporting here on the Baseball Insiders, but I was just in my radio listening world, podcast world. The Dodgers were mentioned around Juan Soto too, which why not? They have everybody else.
I mean, it makes sense. They could use a bat. I mean, it's a pretty weak lineup, but can you imagine? Can you imagine Juan Soto on the Dodgers, Carm? Like
it's
that
just
would
stupid.
be. I was going to use the exact same word. Like, so that's clearly another sign we've been talking too much. Because we're already using each other's vocabulary. But like, what the heck? I mean, I don't know what that would be. Because they gutted their farm system last year when they got Trey Turner and Scherzer. They sent their top two prospects, Josiah Gray and Ruiz, to the Nationals. And I mean, they got a strong prospect core now, but like, boy, oh boy, that would be something.
It's called a good organization. To your point about Maluso, by the way, what do the Yankees do about Gallo and Hicks? But I like his pointer. Could Ben or his question? Could Benintendi and or Ian Happ replace them? That would kill Red Sox fans, would it not?
Yeah, that would definitely kill Red Sox
I mean,
fans.
I guess it's happened so many times now that maybe it wouldn't, but that's not ideal.
No, it's not. And Ian Happ is an interesting one. That's actually not a name that I had considered as like a trade possibility, but he's making like $8.5 million this year, somewhere in that ballpark, which to me is quite a bit. And getting that salary off the books and getting a prospect in return, or a prospect or two or three, I mean, can't hurt. And he would also be paired up with old friend Anthony Rizzo.
Yeah, Ian Happ is making 6.85 this year. He's got one more of arbitration eligibility next season, and then he'll be free agent in 2024. I would wonder if the Cubs would try to get out from the Jason Hayward situation with somebody like Ian Happ. I don't know. I think they'd love to move. I think they'd love to move Jason along to a spot where he'd be happy and also eat some of the money, maybe a ton of the money. Actually, forget about tagging Happ with him. Just eat a bunch of dough to get rid of him and get him somewhere where he can win.
Yeah, but I would not see that situation being with the Yankees because they got they got Stanton and I want to make sure like we're not like.
No, I didn't mean to tie those two together at all.
No, it's all good. But I will say though, so speaking of outfield money for the Yankees, boys, that Aaron Judge contract, that is going to be spicy when that eventually, or if it eventually gets done. No matter what, he's going to be a very rich man.
Yes, he is. You want to put a guess out there on May 31st, 2022 of where he ends up? I think we might have done this once before.
Yeah, I think we did that last week.
And what'd you say?
I can't. I think may have said 50-50 with the Yankees, and I'll stay with that. But what was their contract offer to Judge? Because Cashman went on the record with it.
Wasn't it $216 million?
That sounds close. Because I was like, I had somebody in baseball ask me the other day what I predicted that contract to be, And okay, so Sean Daly, a fine
230.
Yep, a fine producer says 230. So my prediction was 8 years for 275. That's my prediction. So I'm going on the record with that right now. May 31st, he's getting 8 years for 275.
Okay. From?
Boy, you're good at putting me on the spot. I'll say the Yankees.
Okay. I think he stays home. So what do you got on Cole Tucker? Designated for assignment by the Pirates. I've always enjoyed his energy as we look around for somewhere for Cole to land. I know you wanted to bring up Cole today.
Yeah, that one, he struggled with the Pirates. But as a former first-round pick and a former top prospect, I think he is going to be somebody that garners quite a bit of trade interest after being designated for assignment. And I had somebody tell me that he believes he's going to be traded. So obviously we don't know a destination quite yet, but would not be in the least bit surprised if there is some team who trades for him.
That's okay. He could be a fit in numerous places, could he not?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, as a figure as a fourth outfielder now, I can
Sure.
see a lot of teams being in on that. So, as I said, I don't have teams that are in, but he'll garner quite a bit of trade interest.
Okay. Bert, we got to hit a couple things out. Number one,
All right.
As we're going to Orlando, I am bringing with me a fine book, which I texted to you, which I don't know if you have you read the Baseball 100 from Joe Posnanski?
I have not, but I absolutely love Joe. I'm a huge fan of Joe. So you sent that, and I was immediately a fan.
Okay.
I will say this. I was well. Actually, I'll let you finish, and then I'll get into the book I'm reading.
No, that I just thought I want to get a picture of me and you at the pool as I have my book out, and you are doing whatever you do at pools on vacations.
So
It's
you
a
want to know what
working
I do at the
vacation.
pool?
What do you do? Sit in the sun?
Well, how'd you know? You're very wise, Carm. But I basically call and text sources while I'm at the pool.
Oh, that's good.
Try to build relationships.
Can we stream from the pool? You building relationships?
If you want to.
I don't know. There's maybe we'll just try to take a video.
Yeah, because it's gonna happen. Boy, I don't know what I'm trying to say now. But anyways, the book I'm reading, Carm.
Yes, please.
It's from Jeff Fletcher, an Angels beat writer. It's a book going inside of Shohei Ohtani's rise from overseas to being an Angels star. And just started it, but it's fantastic right now. And I want to say thank you to Jeff for sending it to me before it became before it was put on bookshelves. So thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate
it.
You
and you should pre-order that. It's gonna be on Amazon.
Okay.
So,
okay.
I want to plug it for Jeff.
All right. Bert, anything on the way out here that's piquing your interest that we haven't touched upon? The Yankees have dropped their last two. Minnesota just cruising along here. All of a sudden looking like a borderline favorite in the AL Central with the White Sox having all sorts of issues.
Crazy.
Yes.
I will. So I'll actually answer this question from Dan Sullins.
Okay.
The one up top is the Lance McCullers deal a good comp for what Joe Musgrove might get. So I know the Padres and Musgrove have exchanged contract figures, and it's not been to what Musgrove has wanted or believes he can get, and for good reason too. And McCullers' deal was 5 years for $85 million. I would imagine that contract is going to be worth a good chunk over $85 million when it's all said and done, because this free agent starting pitcher class is pretty loaded. You have just a plethora of options, but I believe that if Musgrove stays healthy, he's the best one, and he'll have some team absolutely pay him, Carm. And this is me going on a bit of a tangent here. So look at what the Pirates rotation once was, or what could have been. You have Garrett Cole, who got like $300 million. You have Joe Musgrove, who looks like a star with the Padres. You have Jameson Taillon, who might actually be one of the two best starting pitchers available this winter. And you also traded Clay Holmes, who is the Yankees closer right now, and just a dominant bullpen arm. And then you trade the three prospects that they did, Tyler Glasnow, Austin Meadows, and Shane Baz to the Rays for Chris Archer. So you could add Tyler Glasnow in that rotation as well. And they had them all at one point, and now they have none, and they remain the Pirates. So not great, Carm. That's my tangent for the day.
It is amazing how consistent the Pirates are at being the Pirates. For a minute there, they weren't the Pirates. There was they made it to the wild card. I guess that was 2015. I'm trying to remember. I think that's the last time they were in the playoffs. But bad organizations do what bad organizations do, and they do it well. Good organizations, Tampa.
They're the opposite of Tampa. Every move they make seems to be bad. So
even the A's, by the way, sell the whole farm. Still kind of a respectable, really bad team outside of the fandoms coming. I mean, they're bad, but they're not like most teams. If they had done what the A's did this year, they'd win 3 games. The A's are just I don't know. They hung at 500 for a little while. I know Oakland fans don't want to hear that. The 3,000 that show up to the Coliseum. God bless you.
Tough. I feel bad for them. That's all I can say about that.
Those poor fans. They'll be all right. Hey, Bert, we're back next Tuesday, 2 o'clock. Yes, we're back next Tuesday, buddy.
All right.
No, we're not back next Tuesday. You're right. We're not back next Tuesday. We're coming back. So we're back next week. Let's leave it like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was confused because, we could always do it from the plane or on our way up to go see the Savannah Bananas.
On our way to go see the Savannah Bananas. I'll tell you this much: Bert and I will be on Twitter this weekend doing a video of something. So continue your following of by Robert Murray and at the Carm, because we'll have some fun down there. I look forward to it.
We most definitely will. There's gonna be content galore, and you want to know what makes all that possible, Carm?
What's that?
Is people subscribing to this podcast.
So if
you're listening right now, please subscribe. Oh, hey, you taught me well, Carm.
You're a full pro. I can retire now. Robert Murray's going to be hosting the Baseball Insiders by himself. It starts next week.
As Carm is just sitting in Florida. Yeah. Boy, I'm in.
Thank you for watching. Everybody on the comments, Dan and Jacob and DC and Robert and Will and Brian, the good doctor, Matt Millay, Jacob. Y'all have a great afternoon. Bert, you're my hero, brother. Good to see you.
Hey, you're my hero, too. I'll see you in a couple days, Carm, where the Baseball Insiders are going to be reunited. Or united. We haven't been reunited before. So
it's the first ever meeting. Hit that subscribe button. Turn your notifications on. We'll see you next time.